Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. So we are back again this morning to take another look at an academic paper. I already got one picked out. I just picked it out a moment ago. Here, let's go ahead and get some background music going. I might no. I was gonna say I might listen to the music over the headphones, but it'll be okay. Let's go with I like this one a lot. So if I have that going, so yeah, you should be able to hear it. It's just some ambient noise, really. But I had initially planned for this series of streams to be daily. Reading an academic article every day was going to be the hope, but with the first one taking over 3 hours to get through and it only being a 26-page article, I realized that that's probably not feasible. So we're not going to be doing this every day. I'll just do it whenever I have time and I feel like it, because I do think it's fun. I think it's fun to do. I think it's interesting to read this stuff. I mean, again, I'm trying to whisper to not wake people up. But here, let's shrink myself down. Oh, wait, not yet. So this is going to be that. Okay. Shrink myself down. Oh, whoops. Okay. Is this how I want it? Yeah, I think so. This is good. I can even make myself a little bit bigger. And we'll probably zoom in the article. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. How's that? Huh. I think whenever I Alt-Tab, it just changes it back to, yeah. Anyways. Here we go. Okay, let's not use the mouse. So, this is the article I picked out today. I found this by looking up Cosmology on Google Scholar, and then filtering it to anything written within the past year, or since 2025 was the option. Actually, here, let me show you. So, Google Scholar, Cosmology, since 2025, there it is. And this is more specifically what I wanted to show you. Let's see. This link, if you click on it, will take you to Springer's website, and you will not be able to access the article unless you want to pay for it for $40 a month, or if you have institutional access. But there's also this link here to the side that'll give you a PDF of it. So, don't ignore the right-hand links here. So, this paper here on the present status of inflationary cosmology seems to be a review of the inflationary theory for the explanation of the birth of the universe. You're probably familiar with the term Big Bang. Inflationary, or inflation, is sort of like a add-on to Big Bang, in the sense that the idea is that there wasn't necessarily an explosion, but an expansion. That the universe went from a singularity to it expands it, and it's not, sorry, I had something hair in my mouth. It's not that it's expanding out into something else. Like, you might ask the question, well, if the universe is expanding, like, what is it expanding out into? Like what? Like, if you have a balloon and you blow it up, the balloon is expanding, right? And you're standing in a room and it's expanding within the room, within the air of the room. So what room is the universe in that it's expanding, And will it eventually reach, if you had a really big balloon, you might be able to blow it up enough to where its boundary, meets the boundary of the room. It meets the limit of its container. So what container is the universe in? And it's expanding within this container? Will it ever, reach the boundary of it? But I don't think it's that the universe is expanding in that sense, like a balloon in a room. The expansion of the universe isn't expanding to take up more space, but it's an expansion that creates space. It's generating the extra space, and it's also, at least the current expansion of the universe. When we talk about, the universe is expanding now, it's more so that galaxies are moving further away from each other. But anyways, for none of this is my expertise. I am very, very much a layman in the field of cosmology, but I find it interesting, so I try and read a little bit about it. But inflation, in the cosmological sense, talking about the birth of the universe, is, I think, my basic knowledge of it, being said simply, is that, yeah, from a singularity to the creation of, I think, about, upwards of 90% of all the matter that currently exists within 2-3 minutes, or maybe less. And what caused this expansion? Because what set things moving, within a singularity, there is no difference. There is no motion. It's all self-contained identity. And I think motion and difference are pretty intimately tied up with each other. And I think that which together, motion and difference together gives you change, which gives you time. Time is, a series of change. And not even a series, it's a flow. And there was none of that in the singularity. And it seems to be that the stability of the singularity was a false one. And something, I'm not sure what, perturbed the singularity out of that false stability. You see, it thought that to be a singularity, you don't have any energy at work. And so it thought that its energy was stable. None of it was at work. None of it was operational. none of it was being energetic, really, you know. And that wasn't true. It did have it did have quite a bit of energy to move, and that did move for whatever reason. And that movement, that expulsion out of the false stability is what kicked off the inflation, and suddenly the singularity was a multiplicity. And space and time were born together with that expansion, with that inflation that, again, you know, was very, very quick. The universe, more or less, was born in minutes. And so that's sort of a general idea of inflation. And yeah, so this paper seems to be a review that sort of takes, you know, a present evaluation of the status of the inflationary theories. Describes some of the basic models, and I guess talks about their validity. We haven't, you know, been past the contents page yet, so here we go. And we might be way over our head. Once we get into the actual paper, we'll see. We also might not even finish it today. We might have to come back to it. Might make it easier to read on the stream. I'm not sure what these four problems are. I hope they explain them. The homogeneity, the isotropy, horizon, and flatness problems I'm not familiar with those. But evidently, this Stravinsky model failed to solve them, or didn't even attempt to, which was, I believe that Guth, this guy, Guth, that he was one of the first to come up with the idea of inflation, which evidently these problems were something, were a main motivation he had in mind, with coming up with inflation in the first place, was to solve these problems. But even though the Stravinsky model didn't address these issues, it did eventually seem to match up with WMAP and Planck data. And again, not really sure the context of that. Yeah, how the universe becomes inhomogeneous after inflation, I'm not sure. Equilibrium would have been a good word to use, along with stability, when I was giving that the brief introduction, which may have been incorrect in some ways. Equilibrium, the state of thermal equilibrium, is kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about the stability of the singularity. And all this, by the way, reminds me, especially if you add on the idea of the Big Crunch, it reminds me of Hegel's movement from there are a lot of different words for it, like the encyclopedia would be logic, nature, and Geist. But the movement from like self-identity, or essentially the singularity, multiplicity back to a singularity, but the singularity at the end is different than the one at the beginning, because it contains within itself a mediated self-other. Christ, God the Father, Christ the Son, and the Holy Spirit are another example of the same kind of model. And the idea of the Big Crunch, for those unfamiliar, is that the singularity that the universe was in may have been the remnants of a collapsed previous universe, and that once we reach our thermal equilibrium, then the process will reverse, and we'll go through a crunch again. And if you've ever seen the movie Mr. Nobody, that's what happens at the end of the movie. If If you haven't seen that movie, sorry for spoiling it. Alright. I'll be right back. for right now. Actually, we'll have to come back to this one. All right. Peace.